So today's Monday, June 6th. This is my monthly free branding clinic, and I'm really delighted to have Terri and Joe Alamo here today to talk about what they do. I met Terri and Joe through Michael Neal. Many of you know I've worked with him for a few years, and they had been part of his virtual support team for years and years. Anyway, and I was always amazed at how seamless things would go in this business that he ran, because he was running so many programs and there were so many emails, and how they ever kept it all straight. Anyway, and over the years I've gotten to know them and started to understand all that they do. So not only do they do sort of traditional virtual assistant work for people, which I think of as answering emails, scheduling, that sort of stuff, but they also do support for websites. They help run webinars. They create video. Anyway, I'm going to ask them to do a full list of all the stuff they do, because it's kind of amazing what's on offer. They're very unusual in that way. And besides being super talented, they're also really nice people. And knowing what other people charge, I think they also provide great value. And so anyway, I'm just delighted to have them here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So do you want us to start by telling you kind of how we got started in this?
Yeah, and how long you've been doing it. Sure.
So I used to work in banking and running a business for somebody else who actually sold the braces, something totally non-related, but I ran his company for him. And in 2007, 2008, my mom got ill, and I decided to quit my job then at a newspaper. I was doing accounting for a newspaper, and I stopped that to stay at home and care for her. And a few months into that, I got a note from a coach that said, you know, I'm looking for some part-time help. I know you've run companies before. Maybe you can help. And I said, well, Mom's number one priority, but I'm more than happy to do what I can on the side, kind of thing. And it'll give me some outside real people to talk to, you know, so that I can keep some things up to date. So I started doing that, and then that led to another referral and another referral. And then it got to be where I noticed, gee, maybe this is a business that's happening here. So I decided, well, I should probably have a legitimate website. So I spent a night and I drew it out on this piece of paper, what I wanted my website to look like. And it was red and black and white. And I drew a little square around the initials and everything. And I thought, oh, I just have to find somebody to build it. And I knew I couldn't afford a website. So I went online, and I happened to see on Craigslist an ad for someone who was offering to do websites for free for charities. And lo and behold, it happens to be this guy here. So he had been building websites for places and was very involved in charities. He was responsible for the whole Kiva situation.
Yeah, I was doing, I did a forum for them and everything.
Wow.
Which is the micro lending sites and stuff. So I wrote to him and I said, look, I'm not technically a charity, but you could kind of say that because I don't really have a job anymore because I quit that to stay home with my mom. And how bad would it be if, you know, if I gave you the whole design and you just had to make it work, how much would it cost? So I sent him my design with my fingers crossed, and he wasn't sure he was going to take it, I don't think. But the next day he sent me a website back, which floored me, first of all. I was so amazed, and I was scared to open it because this made it very real, having a business. So I opened it, and it looked nothing like my paper. So my first thought was, this isn't anything like, and then I actually looked at it, and it was beautiful, and it was way better than anything I could have come up with. He did such a great job. So I said, okay, just send me the invoice for what it'll cost. And turns out he didn't charge me hardly anything, and I ended up paying him 3 times his invoice amount because I just couldn't justify it in my heart not to. He had done such a great job.
Didn't take me long.
I'm sure it didn't take you long. It would have taken me a long time. So at that point, I had the website going for virtual assistants. And I thought, well, why am I not hiring virtual assistants to help me? Because I have all this stuff to do and only part-time to build this business. So I called around looking at virtual assistants agencies, and I was terrified. There was no way in the world I was going to hire a virtual assistant to help me build my business, which is a terrible thing to say. But it was very intimidating because most of them were set up that you paid for 20 or 30 hours in advance to have them do things for you. And it was difficult to know what exactly they did and how long it would take them to do it and how you'd use these hours. And I certainly didn't have 30 hours worth of stuff ahead of time that I knew what I would have them do or that I had the money to pay. So I decided not to do that and decided to do it myself and worked myself through the process. And Joe helped out tremendously with the website part. And then we started getting more and more referrals. And one of our main referrals was to Michael. And the first thing that Michael wanted was a new website. So I brought Joe in and I said, look, you were really nice to me. How do you feel about doing websites for my clients? And he said, well, I kind of like working with charities. And I said, but these are people that all want to change the world. These are people that are doing wonderful things for the world. So kind of got him hooked into that.
Yeah, a little bit.
And
you're very convincing.
So he kind of joined forces, and we started that. And the referrals kept coming in, but kind of a lot of people knew us as working for Michael because we were the face of his team. For many years, it was just the two of us. For him. And then I think about 2 years ago, we started adding in Annette and Sarah and Lynn and some other people to start doing some of those tasks. But in the meantime, in this, we started like 2008 together. 2013, we incorporated. And then in that time, we've worked for over 120 coaches that we've helped. We try and make it so the whole goal is to make it so virtual assistants isn't so terrifying so that you don't not use us like I did. So we set up our business very differently. We usually do, free consultations with people to see if it's a good match and to really make sure they understand what we're about because we don't do it like a lot of other people. A lot of people are concerned about the cost. So we have two different ways of billing. So we do an hourly cost for projects that are just by the hour. And then when there's big things like a website, it can get kind of scary to not know how many hours that's going to take. So in that case, we'll quote a project cost and we'll write down everything you get. And it kind of puts a cap on it for people so that people don't get so nervous about taking on the bigger things. And we pretty much work with the client as to what works best for them in that regard. The other thing that stopped it was we decided that as long as we were able to do it, we were not going to charge any minimums or anything like that. So we don't do any packages where people buy 20, 30 hours up front, none of that. We basically bill by the 5-minute mark. So we've had clients that actually only use us for 5 minutes a month. And we've had clients that use us for 120 hours a week. So it just depends on what they really need. But sometimes it really is something that you're just stuck on, that you could be stuck on for 3 weeks in your website that you're creating yourself. And if you just knew the answer to that one question, you could get moving again. So we really wanted to make it so you could shorten your learning curve with different things, but not have to make a huge investment to do that and not have to be scared about calling or not have to save up 100 questions for, till you had your minimum 20 hours worth in order to be able to use the services. So that's kind of how we set it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds amazing to me to hear how it all evolved and, how you met. That's such a great story. And the fact that you might not know that at this point, Joe and Terri are actually married.
They are.
And, so they've been a great team on many levels over time. Joe, is there anything you wanted to add? It sounds like you had been doing websites.
I was doing stuff on my own. I was doing like tech support and websites for various local companies, and I was working with charities, and I ended up with Kiva at some point, and they actually wanted to hire me, but I didn't want to move out to San Francisco, where they were based. So it's like, well, I'll put that on Craigslist and see if there's any local charities that I might want to try working for. And
And coincidentally, he moved back from Texas to
Yes.
the area
I
to
was in
take care of
Texas,
his mom,
Yes.
who had a stroke. So we had that in common as well. And ironically, the other virtual assistants we hired seemed to all be staying at home, taking care of parents or children. It just happened to be that way. And we felt like it was kind of the right people were being drawn together who had a lot of cool skills that they could use, but not in your traditional 9-to-5 go to work kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not how that came together like that. Looking back on it, it's kind of weird, but it's
nice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I realized I didn't say when I was introducing you, part of the reason I have these guys on the call today is often people do this brand coaching work I do with me, and they get really clear about their vision and why they're doing it and what they want to do. But then the next step after working with me is to take it kind of into the world of form, to create things very concrete, like a website or a webinar, and maybe they want to write a book. And those are all things you help people do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you could just say a list of all the different services you guys can provide. I know it's kind of a long list.
It is kind of a long list.
Well, pretty much anything that an entrepreneur, solopreneur would do in their business, we can do for them. So any of the things that you don't like to do that keep you from doing the thing that you really want to be spending your time with can pass off. So our team, for example, has done, book launches. We've done certainly websites. We've done blogs for people. We handle people's social media all the time. We've certainly done research. For an example, like when we do a live event, we've done live events. For training schools that we've done, we've actually gone there, we've live streamed it.
You set up the video, you take the video, you edit the video.
We choose the venue, we make the agreements with the venue, negotiate price-wise on what's available, what's not available. We set up the catering.
The audio people.
What goes in there, the audio people, we make sure the audio fits in with the live streaming and the recording. Give various options to the clients depending on what their budget is to stay within that budget, and they just give us a number and then we go make it happen from there. What else? Calendar, appointment settings. We do all that kind of stuff that you would think of. Shopping carts, setting up online stores, doing online programs. Some of the programs might be email only. Some of them might include video or audio bits. Some might include weekly webinars. Michael's old Creating the Impossible, his very first version actually included action days, where on every Friday, people would call in at the top of every hour to say how they were doing on their project. And so we ran the action days where we would at the top of every hour get on a call like this, check in with everybody, hang up, and then go do our stuff for the next 45 minutes, and then jump back on.
Insane. That's insane.
That was fun, though. It was a lot of fun for us, and we lost a lot of weight that year because our goal was running around the block every hour.
Hilarious.
Fun, though. But there's all kinds of things like that. Sometimes picking the right system. Webinar systems are phenomenal for not telling you all the information up front until after you're in there. So like some systems won't work for a paid program, but they would work for a free program, and some systems will work when you have multiple people, like co-trainers. Some will work better when you're breaking into breakout groups and you want them to talk among themselves and then come back. So knowing which ones are good for what can save a lot of time for someone who's looking to do it, because they don't have to do the 10 hours of prep trying to learn all these systems. They can just get the information. One of probably the most helpful things we ever made up was Maestro Conference has the ability to do breakout groups, but if you go through a certain scenario, we figured to do the breakout groups, you're far less likely to make mistakes on them. So if you make a mistake when you're breaking them up, they all have to be able to speak to only the people in the group and not to the whole group at large. And the speaker has to be able to speak with you privately and not to the whole group at large. So keeping track of all the moving pieces was a little difficult. And a lot of our clients kept messing up when they did it, so they just hire us to do it for them. And we came up with a cheat sheet that literally led you step through, now announce that you're going to be putting them on hold, now press the tone button to let them know there's a minute left, things like that. But that just took all the anxiety out of it for people so that it became just a simple thing to do and not something so overwhelmingly complex. Stuff like that. Anything else I didn't mention? Bookkeeping?
Bookkeeping. We're trying to get into apps. We're trying to...
Joe's creating apps.
Developing apps. That's amazing.
Things. Can you tell them, like I know there's a button app that makes buttons on websites are something that confounded me. I know he can do them easily, but I can't add a button by myself. So he has an app now that I can design my own button and color and words on it and then just save it and put that on the site without it having to take, without me having to have photo editing software on my computer to do it.
Just little helpful things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So they're sort of like WordPress widgets, or is this something different?
They're actually standalone apps.
Yeah, they're standalone apps right now, and eventually there will be WordPress widgets, but once we get the more time to do that.
Like there's a brochure maker
there's a
that
brochure
we've used for clients when they're trying to put out a brochure on something and they need a template type thing. They can build it right there online on our thing. Ebook covers. A lot of people didn't know how to do that, so that was something that he made a widget for or an app for.
An app for,
do stuff like that. Just things that we know people want in order to be able to do this stuff and don't want to have to hire out to do it. It just makes it a little more capable to do it yourself if you're interested in that kind of thing.
We're trying to help more people do it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one
we
thing.
don't want you to hire us. I'm just saying.
I mean, one thing I wanted to mention, like, I haven't hired Terri and Joe, but I'm planning on it now that they have more time. But a couple years ago, I was doing my Married in 8 Weeks project, and I was having some kind of trouble with my people were subscribing to my blog, and it was going out in this funky way, and they stepped in and just fixed it. Joe fixed it in 5 minutes. I have a sense that your skill level goes beyond what you two have to offer is beyond what we're even saying. Like, just when you drill down to the details of stuff that can just be kind of problematic technically. Like, to have somebody that's on your team behind the scenes helping that run smoothly, look good, is so invaluable. So you can just focus on your business or what your service, what you're actually offering.
Yeah, and to be honest, today's day and age, there are a lot of tools out there to help you do it yourself on your website and stuff. But some of the builders that they put out there to make it simple are so simple that they don't allow a lot of flexibility, and then you're moving from builder to builder to try and find more flexibility. So most of what we do is WordPress websites because it does allow the flexibility and stuff. And, we can shorten the learning curve so much on those things for people that there's no reason they can't do it themselves or do parts of it themselves. And we can give them cheat sheets on how to do it, how to make a post or how to change a page or how to resize a photo for their blog, things like that really empower them to do as much as they want to. And we have some people who want to do as much of it themselves as they can and are really interested in learning. And we have some people that just don't want anything to do with that and just want to pass it off and say, you just do it, make it pretty, and make it happen. And either way is okay. And I think that's really important too, because sometimes when you go to like a virtual assistant services kind of place, they tell you kind of what they can do and how they do it and what hours they work and this kind of that. And you kind of have to fit your business into that. And we've really got it set up so that's not the way it is. We try and match you with somebody who works out well for you. But we find you really need to kind of work with people the way they work best. And some of it is really silly, idiosyncratic stuff. We have a client who can't write an email from scratch. It's just overwhelming for them. So if we can literally write gobbledygook on a page and send it to them, and then they can edit that page and it's beautiful and it's exactly what they wanted. And she was terrified to ask that. Can you send me something, even if it doesn't make sense, just so that I have something to work from, because that's what works better. But my goodness, you should have somebody you can tell things like that to. I mean, that's the great thing, is you have a partner who's willing to do the things that help make life easier for you.
Nice. I know one of the things that's sort of in the back of my mind that I want to do at some point is record one of my branding groups and turn it into like whatever you would call it, like an e-course that people can buy so they could do it on their own time. So if I wanted to do that, how could you help me?
Okay, so first part would be you would have the front end where they would purchase it. So you'd probably have a sales page or an opt-in and some test, like little clips of the videos to kind of let them know what they're going to get.
And you would make those little clips, right? You would do that for me?
We can take that video that you did, turn it into these little promotional clips for it. You can brand it, put it up on the sales page with the opt-in, with the shopping cart tied behind it, or PayPal or whatever, Stripe, whatever you like to use to accept the payments. So then you get the payments in, and then you can actually do it so that they can have the content on your site. Or there are sites like Udemy and stuff like that where you can run courses off-site. But if you were doing it on your site, then we would want a membership level so that people who paid for it can access the material on your site, but people who didn't pay for it can't access it. So we would set that up, and that would include passwords and stuff like that. And so when they purchased it, they would get an email that automatically tells them how to register for the site and get their password. Then they would get into the site, they would get access to the information. Now, depending on if you want to give them all the information at once, you can do it like a library. Or if you want to drip feed it to them, you can have it something new posted every Monday, say for 6 weeks. And that kind of keeps everybody on the same pace.
And do you like like if I want to sell this course, would you help write the emails, or would you just send them, or it can be whatever I need?
We do both. It totally depends on what you prefer. I always think it's good to have your voice on it. But if you are like, I don't even know how to start with this, we would write a sales letter for it, send it to you. You would change it in your tone of voice and what things you really feel about it. And then we would put it into the system for you to make sure it all works the way it's supposed to. We test everything, make sure it works well before anything goes out to a client. They should know that. Another part of that is sometimes in your group, you might decide to have a Facebook group or a weekly call or something to kind of connect with everybody at the end of a week or something to kind of keep everybody on the same page in your group. And when you do that, there's certain things you can do to make it easier. Even though a lot of people are on Facebook, there are some people that are intimidated by things like that and don't know what's private and what's not private. And it's scary to type down things that are private to me on a group in the thought that it might go out to all my friends kind of thing. So you can reassure them by using training videos that says, this is how it works. We're inviting them to a training call that we can run. We did that with Maestro. The first probably 4 programs that Michael ran with Maestro, we did a training day for anybody who hadn't used it before to be able to call in and practice and know how to do that. We certainly trained people like Livy and Susan to do some of the calls, the inner circle calls on how to use Maestro and different systems like that. So you can make it really easy for your clients, and you can make it really easy for you, because if you don't happen to know the system that's best to use, you can either have us teach you how to use it, or you can have us on the call with you, and we'll just tell you when there's questions and, call off the people and mute and unmute people as you need them, which is really helpful when you're doing something where you're really trying to be mindful and really listen. And with coaching in particular, it's hard to get out of the being with somebody, get into the technical, what do I have to do to make this person be able to speak, and then get back into that warm feeling of connection. So having somebody else on the call who can just do that easily behind the scenes makes it easier for them.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that often holds people back from creating in their businesses. It's what I see with a lot of entrepreneurs that I coach, that there's a way, that next step of having to deal with all the technology or, moving forward into that, holds them back.
And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is the cost reason, because it's really difficult to say how much would a course like that cost to do, because you have no idea how many moving parts there are, which ones are important or which ones you could do yourself. Another part of it is the trust factor. This is your business. This is your course that you made up that has your content, and you're giving it to somebody else, and they're putting it out into the world, and that can be scary to do that. So you really have to trust the people that you're working with and know that they have your best interests at heart, and they have to be really clear on things. Like we have had so many people come to us, and it's so sad, where they've had a website built. They spent $10,000 or $20,000 on this huge website,
Yeah.
and they don't know their own passwords to get into it. And the people who built the website are hosting the website, and they have all the passwords. And then in order to switch, they literally feel held hostage, like they can't just up and move and choose somebody else to work with them, because they lose everything if they move.
Yeah.
In their own way is what they view it. So it's very intimidating. For us, it's really important that all of our clients know all of their own passwords. There should never be anything that they don't know that we know. They should also know how to do anything that they have to do on a regular basis. If they're posting blogs, even if they choose never to post a blog themselves, they should have a cheat sheet that tells them how, because that way they can choose whether they want to do it, whether they want to try it, or whether they want to hire somebody else to do it and use the cheat sheet with them. And that's the whole thing, is when you're doing a team, you have to be able to play whatever role in the team that they need, not the role that you want to play. So like for a lot of our clients that are just starting out, they have limited budgets, and they have people that they know that know how to do certain things, but might not know how to do everything. So they might have a niece who comes in and helps them build a website, but they just can't figure out how to get their email system onto their website. That's fine. We can work with people like that. We can actually train the niece to know how to do that the next time, or we can do that part for them and let them go from there. And it's your company, so you should be able to choose your team. You shouldn't have to pick and choose and say, I have to go all here or all there just because we offer it. Some people don't use our accounting services. They only use, the web design services. That's fine. We're just there to fill in the gaps wherever you need it and filled in.
It's more about empowering.
Yeah, we really want you to feel like you can do this, because anybody building a business for their own, it's a scary thing. There's a lot of things to keep in the air. And even, for example, when we did the, Michael Neal had a product that he changed into a USB. And it was a cute little credit card thing that flipped out and would go in the USB, and they could listen to the product that way. They could download the product, have something hard. But when you do that, you run into sales tax because it's a physical product. You also run into VAT tax in the UK if you're shipping it. That's the one. That's the one we designed. And so, all the little pieces of what you have to consider when changing to a physical product versus a digital product, we actually set it up so that they purchased a digital product, got access right away, but the physical product was shipped as a gift, which allowed to save some of the tax, of that, because you gave them the digital product first, and it allowed them to have instant access. So as a way, if he didn't know that, or he didn't have access to that information, there could have been things there that bit him later with sales tax and VAT tax and stuff like that. But just having someone who has the experience of having done it before, it makes we might not know everything about taxes, but we know enough to say, hey, you might want to check with your accountant on that one.
But even understanding that if you send out something physical that people are paying for, you have to charge tax. Just that, just there's all sorts of details like that people aren't aware of in their business. And I've seen people sort of get dinged by the IRS for not charging tax or this or that. There's just a lot.
Payroll is another big one when you're hiring a 1099, and we work as a company, we're incorporated. So if people hire us, they don't have to do a 1099 because we're a corporation. But if you hire a virtual assistant who does not have a corporation, you have to issue them a 1099. And then that also affects your workers' comp insurance if they don't have their own workers' comp insurance. So because we have our own workers' comp insurance, our clients don't have to have workers' comp insurance that covers their outside contractors like us. So just little things like that because we had to set up a business of our own and learn, can be really helpful to someone who's never navigated the waters before.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to open the floor for questions. If anybody's questions or comments. Gail, go ahead. Are you unmuted?
Yeah, I just unmuted. This is great. I'm learning all kinds of things. I guess my question is, like, do you also just kind of help? Okay, I'll just use myself as an example because that's who I'm thinking of. So currently, I have a very old website from something that I used to do that I've just been discovered that it's been hacked into, and I need to figure out how to rescue my blogs on there. But I don't have a coaching website yet. I do have a blog that just consists of my blog posts. It's a WordPress thing that somebody did for me, my blog posts and kind of a bio, with the idea that at some point I would turn that into a full website. Do you also, like, for me, not only am I not so great at the technical part, I kind of don't know where to begin, like, for content for a website. Like, do you give just guidelines on, like, here's what you could write, or you help with the writing of it? Okay.
You absolutely can. So for some of our coaches, they don't like to write at all. And to be honest, if you hate writing, I don't think you should be doing a blog, because the great part about having your own business is you get to do the things you love to do.
Yeah, I love writing, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you love writing, then you probably already got the writing there, but there might be things that speed up the process for you. So it might be like, I want to write, we have a lot of health coaches involved as well. So they might say, I really want to write something about cauliflower, but I don't have time to do the research on which vitamins it has and all that stuff. Would you get me all the details you can find about that stuff? And then I'll pick and choose what I want to include in it about it. So you can do research about those things to make their writing easier. Or we can actually write them and then they tweak them depending on how much we know about the subject, how comfortable they are with their voice and our voice, and if it's close enough. We usually suggest everybody tweak it to their voice, because I really think it needs to be genuinely authentic in order to come across well for a website. But I happen to think that with coaching, there's a ton of different things you can write about. And one of the things to ask yourself is, what do most people ask me when I say I'm a coach? So if they ask you about confidence, then that might be a good topic to write about. If they ask you about, well, what do you actually do in a session? That might be something to write about. So you're getting constant feedback from your clients and from your prospective clients that you talk to and other people in social areas for content of what people want to know.
Well, can I add something?
Yeah,
I'd love to add something, because I think what you're asking about is the actual creating the content for the pages of your website.
That is.
And that's some of what I actually do with
trouble with.
When I do the brand coaching process with people, I take them through a process where essentially you're writing your website and like how to create that in a compelling way that really reflects who you are.
Okay.
And I think what Terri's saying is they can help you write it if that's what you want. I look at it a little different than Terri. I think that everybody should write their own website unless I don't know, you're dyslexic or something and you really need somebody to heavily edit it. Most people can write their own websites.
Yeah, okay. So what I was asking about was, like, I don't have a problem with the writing of it. It's more like I don't know what
to say,
what it should include.
So if I said like a welcome page and an about me page and a coaching services page, would that kind of give you the direction of what you would then write?
Yeah, I guess you just answered that kind of, but maybe even like tips on do's and don'ts, like writing something but that might not sort of sound right for what I'm trying to do,
I think that feeds in with Sandra and the branding. And I have to say that if you get really clear on what your message is and how you want it presented at the beginning of the process, it makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
So like when Sandra does her work with someone and narrowing down that, and then they just hand it over to us.
Right. Okay.
Look and feel however you guys have decided to do it. But having that, what makes it you versus somebody else discussion before that time is a really valuable thing to do.
Okay.
I mean, that's the heart of your vision. It's like your branding is the vision for your business, and
Okay.
and sort of how, when that's really clear, how you take it forward becomes very obvious. Like even what you blog about, once you've got a really clear vision,
Okay.
it helps, it makes what Terry and Joe can do for you really easy. I can see
Right. Okay.
you know the feeling you want to communicate, the heart of your message, you know, how that relates to who you are.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have any of that. That's what I hear. That, like, I sort of, maybe I need to work with you first. I sort of just don't
I'm
have.
happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I don't really have that vision. I just sort of show up to the blog and write whatever and.
Whatever.
But to be honest, the authenticity of it really matters too, because we have a lot of coaches that are referred to us directly from coaching schools. So they come out of a particular coaching school and they've been taught that, you know, you're supposed to do a blog, you're supposed to have a free webinar to invite people in, you're supposed to get so many followers on each of your social media channels, and they have a formula kind of what they're supposed to do. And one school in particular has a particular formula to use one piece of content in 7 different ways. So you might do a video, but then they extract the audio, and then the audio is a podcast, and then you transcribe it, and that becomes a blog post. And you know, they have all these different ways of using the same content and stuff. So although there's some good information in all of those different rules and ways of going about things, if it doesn't feel authentic to you and it's not fun to you and it's not something that actually achieves your goal in your business, if you're really looking for one-on-one clients, you know, spending a lot of time getting your message out to thousands of people isn't really where you're going to get the one-on-one clients. Mostly that's going to come from your conversations with people. And to have somebody who knows that about, you know, coaching or that type of helping profession to say, you know, look, we can make you a website, we can do all these things, but what is the goal of the website? Is it to give you credibility? Is it to, you know, just give somebody a place to go check up on? Is it some place where it's a gathering place where it really feels like a community? What's the purpose of it? And that really all ties into how you want the brand to come across. When you're really clear about what you're up to in the world, all the rest kind of fits into that mold.
Falls in.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah.
It can be really intimidating to start any of these.
Well, and the thing is, it sounds like Terri and Joe, there's an awful lot on offer, but when you're just starting out, like the simplicity of just having a very clear website that reflects who you are and what's on offer, like part of the reason that the authenticity is important is the right people will resonate with what you write. Like I find that the people that work with me, there's some way that we're resonant. And I think they get that either through meeting me or through reading something I've written, and they feel compelled to talk with me. I can't tell you how often somebody's hired me to do branding work with them and they didn't even know what that meant. They just felt a resonance. Hired me. I think I'm being really clear, but obviously not.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah. I think, I mean, part of the reason I've just, I've only kept a blog, or I've only had a blog for a while, is just feeling so unclear on who I am as a coach, but wanting to write. So it's like, all right, I'll just put up a blog and let that be good enough for now. But
and you write beautifully. I've read some of the things you've posted.
Thank you. Yeah.
So. Could I jump in and talk to Terri and Joe for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
Please. Sure.
Well, Terri knows me a little bit because I took a couple of programs from Michael, Creating the Impossible and a couple of things like that. So I think she knows who I am. Don't know Joe as well, but glad you guys are married.
Hide behind the scenes a little more than I do.
That's okay.
I've seen your name around the community, though.
Yeah. So guys, what I'd like to ask is, I have some very specific things in mind that I would like virtual assistants to do for me. So, and I can get into them in a kind of a gloss right now, but probably, to get down to nuts and bolts, I might have to schedule a separate call from you, separate from this Zoom call. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would I do that? How do I get to you guys to schedule something like that?
Okay, so our website is tlcforcoaches.com. So it's tlcforcoaches.com. And you can certainly
wait a minute. TLC, it's got just .com. Okay.
tlcforcoaches.com.
Okay.
And it would be Terri at or Joe at, or you can do team at.
Okay.
It will get to any of us. What I normally do when I first work with a client is I spend an hour with them at no cost to them, kind of figuring out if it's a good fit, what information they need, what types of things they'd like to do. Then I look at the picture after the fact and say, okay, I have the skills to do this, or one of my other team members have the skills to do this. We like it to have one contact person. So it might be me, it might be one of the other virtual assistants, but the whole team kind of backs each other up, which is nice because if one's on vacation, the other people can jump in and help, and you're never really left without somebody. The other great thing is that Joe helps support all us virtual assistants who get in the middle of maintaining a website and there's one little glitch where the photo won't do what it's supposed to do on WordPress, and he'll say, oh, there's a workaround for that, do this. So we all have access to that. And so that's kind of how we do it, is I usually have that initial intake call. And then if we hand you off to somebody else, if for any reason we weren't your main virtual assistant, then we would let you have an hour call with them at no charge to see if it was a good fit. Sometimes we have time zones involved, stuff like that, where people are more comfortable having someone in their time zone. Some of the coaches have Christian, leanings, and they would really like to have somebody who's very, who's outwardly Christian to be their virtual assistant, things like that. It can be whatever fits best among the people that we have working with us.
Okay, well, perhaps if that's the case, then maybe I'll just schedule one of those.
Absolutely, won't cost you anything. I'd be happy to have it.
Rather than taking up the time of the group right now, because it gets a little, there's a lot of little bells and whistles involved in it and all that sort of thing. So I will do that. If I do that, Terri, what's the usual turnaround in terms of you getting back to me and our being able to schedule?
We could probably talk later this week.
Okay, well that's great. Okay, then I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll leave it at that, rather than, because nobody else is going to be interested in what I'm doing. So
you'd be surprised though, because a lot of people do think about different ways of doing things and don't have the general basic knowledge of, like, they want to do an e-course, but they don't know how an e-course comes to pass or something like that, or a live event, retreat, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Terri.
Sure.
Does anybody else? Any questions? Thoughts? Reflections? There's somebody on the phone that I've got muted. I'll unmute you. I'm not sure who's there. Who do we have on the phone? Oh, wow. I'm going to mute them again because who knows? Oh, they hung up.
They were apparently more nervous than I was.
Oh, well, I just figured I'd check in with them. I muted them because there was a lot of noise. I'll probably get an email later from someone saying, that was me. Libby, Susan, Janelle, any questions, comments?
I'm curious if anybody didn't use a VA or has never used a VA, what their reasoning was or what their assumptions were that might have maybe made them delay. If anybody wants to share that.
I've just paid someone to start putting my website together.
Yay.
For years, I like the idea of knowing how it all works and being able to do it myself. But the reality is there aren't the hours in the day to do it all. Yeah. So it's not that I have a problem with there being somebody else there. I guess it's my thing that I tend to do everything myself, which is why I've got too much on my hands in all sorts of ways in my life, of course. So yeah, you know, I even bought a course on how to put my website together with WordPress, and then I don't have time to do the course. And the other reason actually was, having been an apprentice with Michael, I just didn't have any spare cash for a while to spend on anything else. As you know very well, Terri.
And to be honest, that it's a misnomer that it costs more to have help. And the reason that it's a misnomer is because if we can teach you a technique or trick or something like that that will allow you to do something in 15 minutes that you've been spending 5 hours banging your head against the wall for, and you don't have to pay us 10 hours to do it, you only have to pay us the 15 minutes worth, that makes it really accessible. It's like having an expert on hand that you can just call up or schedule a call with and say, I need 15 minutes of your time to brainstorm what I'm not seeing here. And just knowing the systems we've used before, we can short circuit some of the tracks you might be going on. We did that recently with a webinar thing. I went through the whole process when we were reevaluating webinar systems again, was convinced that Instant Teleseminar would work beautifully for a program, talked to them individually. I mean, probably had 4 calls with the guys from Instant Teleseminar, ordered the package, ran the test, still thought it was great. And when we were just about ready to go on the second free one that we did, we noticed the PIN numbers were the same as the previous one. And I called and I said, well, what happens if they're paying for this? Then the people who went last week can come this week, but they haven't paid. Shouldn't they have individual PIN numbers? Oh, we don't do it that way. They had no way around it. So that particular system could not be used for a paid event and then really protect the privacy of the people who paid for it. But you would not have known that even after all those telephone calls and a lot of research and a lot of good questions that I asked, having known what other teleseminar systems offer. So until you actually use it, sometimes there's little things you don't find out about it. And me knowing that ahead of time, when you said, well, somebody told me about Instant Teleseminar, I can just use them, I would say, great, but not if it's a paid program. And then I would tell you why. And that's a lot of time saved.
Some people just need help getting started, I think, and just.
Yeah, I really like the flexibility of what you're offering, because I think I haven't progressed because I get paralyzed by the fear of trying to do something, or even the fear of asking how to do something, like even knowing what to ask someone to do. The whole techie thing, it just blows my mind so much. I mean, I'm just in total awe of you guys, really. Like, wow, I don't know how you do that stuff.
But you can come and say, what are the pieces? And which of these pieces can I reasonably do myself, and which ones are going to take me off into a rabbit hole that I'm never going to come up from for 2 years? And you can do it so that you can do as much of it yourself as you want to. If you want to build a website for WordPress, a lot of people just hire us to install WordPress because that's the techie part that scares them. Then once it's installed, or they have a theme chosen, or we install the theme for them, then they do the pages and post themselves, and they can make it themselves. And then occasionally they'll run into, well, I'd really like this to be shaped differently, and we can just go in and do the coding to do that, depending on what their theme allows. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be pick us and use us when you can use us. Because that's what we like to do most, is getting people out of the situation. We actually had someone who, a very famous coach, whose website was completely hacked and went down. And we hadn't worked with her for 3 years, 2-3 years. She had the same website we had originally done, but she didn't keep up on the updates and the stuff with WordPress. So it got hacked, and she called in an absolute panic. I've ruined everything we've ever done together, you know, because I didn't keep in touch, and this has happened now. And it was really easy for us to get her back on track, get that back up, and then move forward from there and tell her what she needed to do to avoid that happening in the future. But it should be that easy. that if you get stumped, you call, and if we can't help you, we'll say that's not something we're really good at. You might want to try this person, or refer you out. Happy to do that as well.
Wow, you're just like magicians.
Wasn't always
Magic
that way.
elves, for
Boy,
sure.
does it feel like it now compared to then. That's the whole thing, was it really can't be intimidating for people. And when we tell people we have an hourly rate, and our hourly VA rate is $45, in case you're curious as to how it compares. So for $45 an hour, but you're only charged by the 5-minute mark. So if you only need us for 15 minutes, you're not paying $45. So that's a lot easier to call with one question if you know it's only going to cost you 5 or 10 minutes instead of a minimum 1 hour kind of call. The other thing about that is that you don't have to sign up ahead of time, because with coaches and a lot of entrepreneurs, in particular authors, there are times when there is a lot of work to be done because you're launching a new book or you're doing a web program. And then there's times where you might not need any assistance for 3 or 4 months. And that's okay. You're not responsible for keeping us fed or anything like that. And you do feel responsible when you hire somebody in person, that you want to keep their livelihood going and you're trying to find things to keep them busy. So that's what makes it such a scary commitment to hire somebody to help, is you feel responsible for them. And that's the great thing about having it kind of as you need it. It levels the playing field. Whether you're a brand new coach or whether you're a coach making $1 million, you still have access to the same information, and it still is just as affordable to you. The price doesn't go up when you make $1 million. The price doesn't go down. It's just how much time and how you need the help best.
Brilliant.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
We really tried. We really wanted to make it easy because it was so hard for us when we were looking at help. Yep. And we turned out, when we hired VAs, we didn't hire VAs. We hired people that we trained as VAs, because we found it was more important, their attitude and their work ethic and their understanding of people and wanting to help people was something we couldn't train, but the skills were something we could train. Yeah. And that's the great thing, is you can train, a niece or a nephew to do your newsletter once a week. Once you have the template built the way you like it, you can train somebody quite at a lower rate who doesn't have that much experience to do something repetitive for you, and it saves you money and lets you spend your money wisely on the other things.
Like, I have a client right now who she needs to move. She's been writing blogs that are published on the internet every week. But she wants to move all of them also onto her website, and there's quite a backlog of them. Do you guys do stuff like that?
We absolutely can do it, and there's a few things that may or may not be helpful. So if it was a WordPress blog, for example, you can actually export them and import them. So you're talking about 10-minute process for getting hundreds or thousands of blog posts over. It may only take 10 minutes. If it's something we manually had to do, we could still do that by copy paste, things like that. But a lot of times he has these little ways of working around and finding things easier. Sometimes it's like when you go on your website and you notice you've typed in a phone number wrong, but you've got it in 20 different places. You can do a batch search and replace that takes him 2 minutes to say, find this and replace it with this. But if you didn't know that was possible or how to do that on your site,
on the back end,
you would be spending so much time doing that. So for example, for Michael, with his bio is on multiple sites and multiple places. So to have to remember to go and update that bio in all those places would be very time consuming if it wasn't tied in to a database where you could just update it in one place.
Cool. That's so cool.
But it can seem that the type of things that you think are really big projects sometimes aren't. Sometimes they're much simpler than you think they are, or they can be accomplished a completely different way.
Susan?
Am I unmuted? This is it's not a coaching related issue, but I'm sitting here thinking, I'm cleaning my house out right now, and I know that I'm going to come across a box that's been around actually for 20 years. And if I ever sell it, and I need bookkeeping, because it's all that I spent on the house when I renovated it. And sooner or later, I will sell the house. So, is that something you could divert to somebody to?
Yep.
Because it's
so
not.
we do bookkeeping virtually. And how we do it is we use QuickBooks Online. So a lot of people already use QuickBooks or something similar to QuickBooks.
Well, I can get whatever.
Ported into it. And you actually get a lower price because I have QuickBooks for accounting, so my clients get it for less than, somebody who purchased it outright. But then what we would do is we would set up your chart of accounts for you, get that all set, and then we can input the material. Once you have it going, we can have it so that your bank downloads directly to it and it learns how to categorize your transactions. So the amount of time it takes you on a monthly basis to do bookkeeping is very little, which is what you want.
Yeah.
But even old back things, we have done manual things where we had to go in and enter transactions for people and stuff.
Well, this is a transaction. I mean, it just has to be reduced to numbers on it in a.
Yeah, you need somebody
at some point, because when I sell the house, at some point, I need to know what it is. And I've been talking to you all probably for, it's almost time to stop, but for 4 or 5 years about helping me. But my business hasn't grown very much, but it will. It's going to. So I keep saying that. See, rolling your eyes, probably.
Not at all. No. That's the whole thing is, we're there when you're ready.
Okay, honey.
I don't want you to hesitate because you think it's hard, because it doesn't have to be hard. It can be really easy.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a pleasure to work with you guys. Oh, hi. Who is
Kristen,
that?
we're just about to end. We're right at the end of the hour.
Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted. I'll unmute you.
There you go.
Anyway, but I will be posting the recording.
I just went on to post something else and I saw that you were up. So
oh, it's so nice.
I didn't realize you were just finishing.
We're just finishing
the recording.
Nice to see you, though. I was just going to say, we're just about to wrap up.
No, I'm not hearing. Hang on. I'm just creating chaos here.
No, it's
I'm going to
fine.
mute myself and listen to the last couple of minutes.
Well, I was just going to kind of wrap things up for today. It's been a great call, and I appreciate those of you who could make it live. And I will be posting the recording, and I'll send that out to everybody. And I hope you get a chance to listen to it. There was a lot of useful information.
And if anybody does want to speak individually, we're more than happy to do that. We'll send a note to Sandra to let you guys know that when our workshop goes live, we'll give you all a free trial for that, so you can kind of see how it is and see if there's anything.
Cool. Yeah, and you're starting some kind of subscription service, right, where people can sign up and.
Yeah, and they'll be able to kind of experience it for free first and see if it's something that's valuable to them.
Cool. And so it's Terri with an I or Joe at tlcforcoaches.com if you want to read it.
That's it.
Anyway, thank you guys. Great to see everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Great month. See you
Lots of
next
love.
month.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Terri and Joe.
Lots of love to all of you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and Janelle says, great to talk to you all. Amazing. Love how flexible they are. Has some fun stuff rattling around in my head about what I want to do, and now so great I can reach out to you at some point.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for reading that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Love it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Hasta la vista. Good luck to you guys, too. Miss you.
Thank you.